to another episode of Inside Access Control, sponsored by SIA. Very excited today to have Fran Heller. She's with Good2Go. Fran, thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Fran and I, we met via LinkedIn, which is where a lot of discoverable relationships happen. So, and you've reached out with a very interesting, what I believe is a fascinating place, maybe from my days of being in the industry, and that we're really trying to solve some real problems, if you would, within the industry. And, it goes back to the Wayback Machine, really around this need to really solve what we were calling the creepy key problem a while ago. And you've evolved it way beyond that. So if you would, can you give a little bit of background of what got you into the access control industry, which is what you're into, and the problems you're looking to solve, and then really we can get into sort of the future of how you see things going, and we can jump into it. So if you don't mind, a little bit about yourself in the background.
Sure. Well, I come from the healthcare industry, and so your story about the creepy key is part of the motivation that came from knowing that there had to be a better way to manage access and provide access to some everyday access needs like restrooms and office lobbies and elevators. And so it all started with a group of people that were out for a run, and one of our group needed access to a restroom, and we were all locals and residents, and we had no idea where the closest restroom was. So it started a dialogue around, let's put the technology that we know would fix this problem to work to solve what we felt like was a really overdue, antiquated need. And so we started with restrooms because businesses really struggle to manage access to their restroom. Just like you pointed out, they take a hard key and attach it to something large like a spoon or a spatula or a hubcap at a gas station, and nobody wants to touch that. And certainly the business does not want to manage that, but they attach it to something giant so that no one will steal the key. So there's no shortage of stories, and people have certainly shared all their anecdotes about how broken the system is. And when we formed Good2Go, we became really passionate and dedicated to combining some very core elements, keyless with contactless and virtual queuing, because part of accessing a restroom often involves standing in a queue, which no one wants to do, particularly post-COVID. Maintaining social distance is so important. And so our system and the Good2Go platform uniquely combines keyless with touchless and virtual queuing.
Yeah, it's fascinating too, because you and I were talking earlier. So a little story to relate to that is, I just drove back from Florida with my family, and with COVID and the rest being safe, we single drive straight through, brought food. There was a couple critical points where we were concerned, and one of them was big with two small kids, was the restroom. And so it's interesting, where before it was probably more of just like an inconvenience, if you would, and it would be nice to have, to now this became like a health problem and a must have. So the ability to have that taken care of would be really nice. And I actually think it's becoming critical, like you said. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's and what's fascinating to me is the key attributes of what you're looking to solve are no different than some of the other areas. The application of it is what's unique, and I believe is what got me excited, was solving a real problem, not just like a high level, we're gonna do frictionless or seamless or whatever. This is an actual practical problem that needs to be solved, and done in a dignified way too, right?
Right. I mean, I think part of my motivation, and frankly, part of my shock and surprise when I first started researching this, was how broken something that is a basic everyday need. I mean, access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene is a basic human right. And look how broken it is. And everyone struggles every day, whether you're like you, Lee, a parent with young kids, tourists when we get back to traveling, and we're traveling solely by car now or mostly by car now. But it affects everyone. And as a company, we are dedicated to addressing broad access issues for everyone. And again, whether you're trying to get into a building or sports arena, restroom queue, or an elevator. I mean, now with restrictions on how many people can access an elevator at any one time, you can't congregate in the lobby until it's your turn. So our virtual queue and our intellectual property broadly covering the virtual queue can apply to elevator banks or check-in systems or check-out systems, as well as addressing the core needs around restroom access.
And when you talk about core needs, something that this does bring up as well within a smart city and the infrastructure side, the restrooms end of it that you talk about is a core aspect of that. So can you speak a little bit about your thoughts and what you've seen from the smart city end of how access control, this type, and others participate in that smart city?
Definitely. I think, again, one of our observations when we first started building the business model was smart city technology definitely incorporates and takes advantage of smart lighting systems, smart garbage cans. There are sensors that really track everything, how many feet are crossing in a crosswalk. But as we've talked to some smart city main players, it became evident that once again, something as critical as restroom access had not yet been contemplated as one of these core necessities like lighting, transportation, garbage systems. And so we're making great progress in facilitating government, municipalities, state, and federal to incorporate a connected restroom solution. And that helps both sides, right? Of course, it helps anyone trying to access a restroom, but part of the demise and the struggle with restrooms is how poor the conditions become. So part of creating an IoT-based solution means that if you're going to use a digital credential to access space, and many of your viewers completely understand this, your behavior changes. So I'm going to access a space, I'm going to be a known occupant, and I will very unlikely misuse that space. So that means that the persons who are responsible for the cleanliness, the maintenance, the safety, and our current system is installed at businesses all over San Francisco, and we are learning from them that it has made a dramatic change in the safety for their staff, in the consistency and reliability for their consumer or their user experience. And so as we expand and do a much higher volume of installations throughout a city or throughout a state, we know that the maintenance and the operational efficiencies will also dramatically increase.
Yeah, it's just fascinating because it's funny, like the essence of our industry has been always based off of sort of keeping people safe by keeping bad people out, right? And then the underpinnings of that, though, can be leveraged in much different places. Once we start to bring the human behavior, societal impacts, and start to look much broader than just putting barricades up to make sure that we know who's coming in and who's going out. And I feel like, if anything, and you were doing this pre-COVID too, so you were early on this. But what's interesting to me, though, is, at least for myself, and I know for other people too, is it's caused us to sort of step back and really take a larger look at the view of what we're doing. And this, and why I love your story, is it touches a lot of the stuff that I believe is accelerating now with everything going on. So again, human behavior, this idea of access care versus access control, smart cities, utilizing data to have just a deeper understanding to beyond just keeping people safe. There's just a lot to it, and
Right.
it's got to be pretty exciting. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yes,
please.
sorry. The wait time, the dwell time, the queue time, all of that can just continue to improve the user experience, but also the maintenance and the management side of it. I mean, there's so much to be gained from modernizing a system like restrooms. And now, of course, we have to apply that to other shared environments or common spaces to help prevent the spread of a contagion like COVID. So there's a lot of discussion around increasing the cleanliness for different types of properties and buildings and train stations. Cleanliness is absolutely important, but it becomes fundamentally more manageable if you combine contactless systems with improved cleaning. And that's what we feel so strongly about is let's leave antiquated systems like hard key and door handles behind, replace them with reliable new technology platforms, of course, increase cleanliness. And now we're going to have a much higher likelihood that those environments and those surface areas remain free of contagions, and they help curtail the spread and the prevention of COVID spreading further.
Yeah, let's hope that that happens quick. So now I'm with you. So,
Absolutely.
Fran, where your organization's at, I like to ask people, what are you looking for now? Are you looking for partners? I mean, everyone's always looking for more customers, so I get that.
Right,
But
right.
beyond wanting more customers, are you looking for partnerships? Are you looking for, what are you looking for?
Well, I think it's two things. We're looking for additional partnerships, but the bigger goal is to scale and expand broadly, not just in the United States, but globally. So some of the partnerships that we've established already are with global brands like Whole Foods Market, Chevron, and we're looking to expand to other restroom specific solutions, for example, convenient marts, more gas stations. You mentioned that you were just doing a road trip, but we are also expanding into other building environments like managing elevator access, managing other types of queues that form in other venues and arenas. So right now we're primarily focused on expansion, and of course expansion requires additional capital. So like many small startups, we're always raising capital, but it's primarily to scale and expand our network and our footprint.
Wonderful. And if anybody wants to find out more information, what's the best way to get a hold of you and to get more information?
Well, our website, which you mentioned at the beginning, is begood2go.com. We have a lot of information available on the website. And then my email, fheller@begood2go.com, is a great way to get in touch as well.
Yeah, and by the way, I do love the name. If you don't mind, can you give a little bit of, you told me about it earlier, but can you please let everyone know too where the name
Sure,
came from?
sure. So when you're trying to get someplace, a site, a structure, a space, you just want to be good to go. And of course, we get the double meaning for the restroom use case, which people think is clever and funny and certainly memorable. But we named the company Good2Go because when you're authorized to advance in any kind of system, whether you're boarding an airplane or leaving a grocery store retail environment, people often say to you, oh, you're good to go. And it means everything is taken care of. And so we really liked the name for a fundamentally new access and smart access platform. And we recently relaunched our website as begood2go.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Fran. I really have enjoyed getting to know you and the team. I really think you're onto something. I love the passion. You're a great communicator, storyteller, you can tell. And I'm excited for what you all have in front of you. So thank you for taking the time to tell us your story and to learn a bit more about your company. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.